everyone. Welcome. I'm super excited to have you all here today. I'm Irina Cismaș, Head of Marketing at Custify, and I'll be your host for this webinar. Back in March, I saw a session on the agenda of a CS event that I attended, and the title of the session was How to Get a Seat at the Table, Building Executive Presence. And that's what actually sparked the idea for today. The title brought back a memory from about 10 years ago, when I realized the hard way that communication isn't just about what you say, but actually how you say it. Back then, I used to think all that mattered was being well prepared. But I've learned that even the best content won't land if it's delivered the wrong way. So I knew I had to bring this topic to the CS world and make it practical, no fluff, no theory dump. And that's where Ramses comes in. We met right before the CS event and I asked him, can we make this even more hands-on and practical? And here we are. Ramses, thank you for saying yes and for being willing to break down real messages with us today.
Thanks for having me. Looking forward to crack down and give some insights into avoiding mistakes I made.
For sure, this would be for those of you who are watching this live and who are not at the first time attenders of my webinars. This format will be a bit different. We prepared also a live role play. And I'll save the details for later. But let's say that if that's not practical enough, I don't know what it is. So bear with us because we have a lot of surprises during the following hour. And just to sneak this while I still have the mic, because I'll definitely pass it to Ramses, this hour is all about how we communicate. But if you ever need help prepping the what to say, a tool like Custify brings you the stuff you want at your fingertips to make sure that you are well prepared when you are entering the room. I want to address a few administrative housekeeping items. And I want to address the number one question that I get is, will this webinar be recorded? Yes, for sure. And everyone who registered will get the reply after. I encourage everyone to put questions either on the chat or on the Q&A and make sure that I'll monitor closely both of them. We'll tackle the question as we go, or maybe depending on how we are with the time at the end. And now I suggest we dive in. You've heard my story, but I'm curious for everyone who is watching us live today, where do you land on this topic? What's the hardest part for you when it comes to executive conversation? What's your biggest challenge when communicating with executives? And I'm going to publish a poll. Give me one second. Publish poll. Do you all see it?
It's live.
Okay, perfect. You can select multiple options. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. We'll give it a few moments for everyone to vote. I'm curious. Okay, what's the distribution? Okay, and while we vote, Ramses, what's your story? When did it hit you that how we deliver the message can matter even more than the message itself?
Yeah, I like this question because it makes me go back a trip in memory lane. So I really had to think when the aha moment was. But I think I found it back, and it was during one of my assignments. I would say 5 years ago, something like that. So I was a VP customer success. I was in a leadership meeting, so the CEO and the other members of the leadership team, and giving my update. Strong results to share. NRR was up, churn was down, customer satisfaction high, and like maybe 4 or 5 minutes into the presentation, CEO interrupted me and said, "You know what? Can we just talk about exactly what this means for our valuation or expansion strategy?" So we were on this path to exiting, acquiring, or being acquired, and so everything was about those metrics. And so I was just there yapping about the rate data, but it was not at all packaged in the context of what mattered most to the people in the room. Talking about CSAT scores, onboarding metrics, customer success stories. But really, I needed to answer this single question, how does CS, your team, how does it drive the revenue? And how does it reduce the risk? And so that was my like aha moment where I said, okay, I have these right insights, but I don't have the storytelling. I don't have the right frame. So I'm giving like right answers, but in the wrong language. So that was really the narrative. So, for example, changing your narrative of time to value, and changing that to, what, this is X amount of dollars in expansions 3 weeks earlier because we reduced the time to value. We de-risked, I don't know, 500K in renewals. So it's the same data, but it's a different delivery. And so then he got my attention, and he started to lead in. So that was the aha moment, let's say.
For our audience, for our live audience, it seems like the hardest thing is to where they're having they find it challenging because they over explain and they lose the point. And I can totally relate to this. There are so many things that you want to say that basically you share more than the audience is able to consume. They are losing confidence. And again, I can relate to this because I was in board meetings where they felt like a power game more than something which was constructive, or they struggle to translate the CS language. Now that we know where everyone landed, is this what you usually see when you are basically interacting with other CS leaders, where in your coaching sessions, or with the people with the teams that you work on a day-to-day?
I think the main categories come back every time, and then depending of the company, you see a shift in the order of priorities. So my case, it was clearly I over-explain and lose the point, right? And I struggle to translate CS language. So these are, I think, the two most frequent, and I think it's a typical trait for customer success leaders and customer success managers. We know a lot of stuff about our customers in metrics, but also like in stories, but we don't tie that enough to the real company metrics or the real North Star KPIs any company is run. And so we over-explain, we take too much time, we don't come into the right the right message in the first 1-2 minutes of the meeting, and so we lose attention. And then as an outcome, you're not seen as strategic, and so maybe you're not invited again, or you're again perceived as the white glove support that the image we all want to get rid of. So yes, it's very familiar, and I can assure everyone that you're not the only ones struggling with that. It's, I think, a common trait for everyone in our space. I do see that on the second place we have I freeze or lose confidence, which is interesting because that's one of the things that is easier to solve, because that is about presence and communication skills. It's something you can learn. So that's, I would say, an easy one to solve with the right trainings or with the right with the right exercises. You can overcome that more easily than the rest of the categories.
I wanted to ask you, you mentioned before we jump into the concrete examples, you mentioned that everything is a storytelling. How do you build a story around the topics, and how do you find the right angle?
Yeah. So we need to speak the language of the executive team. And so first practical next step I would say is to be a word sponge. What are words that your CFO is using? What are words that your CEO is using? And so try to understand them and mimic them because that's where they are primarily concerned with. So it's probably revenue growth and retention, cost efficiency, risk mitigation, any strategic opportunities. And so how can you map those metrics you have to executive priorities? I think that's number one. Translate your CS metrics into business impact. So NPS is not NPS. It's how to correlate that with your expansion pipeline, churn reduction, product adoption metrics. It's linked to likelihood of renewal or upsell opportunity. Customer health score. It's not a customer health score. It's the future revenue risk you are actually quantifying. And so get rid of those vanity metrics and translate them into something that correlates with the business. And then, telling a story, I would say, is probably the most important. Step away from just reporting this data. Here's the number. So, but what do they tell? Here's what's working. Here's what at risk. Here's what we're blocked on. Here's where we need to act on. Here's where I need collaboration from product. Here we need to work together with marketing. Here I need support from CFO in terms of deal desk, for example, or in terms of some leniency into contractual agreements and so on. And then, have your collaboration with other revenue functions as well. I think that you should be co-presenting with a sales leader, co-presenting with a product leader, because that shows that you're not into just an operational supportive function as customer success, but that it's really interconnected with two other greatly important departments into the company. And so those should be your best friends, even if most of us don't have a great relationship with the sales leader. It should be your best friend. Same with the product leader, by the way.
So what I hear from you is you need to identify a set of keywords, and each persona, I'm a marketer, so I'm using the marketing language. So each persona has a different set of keywords. So depending on who you have in the room, you need to adjust the message. So, and you need to speak about health scores one way when you speak with the CEO, in another way when you speak to the CFO, and in another way when you speak to the product.
Exactly, because it's not only on keywords, so they're being the word sponge, but that translates into what are their priorities, what are they occupied with, right? And each of those leaders has different preoccupations, but we managing the customers, managing the existing business, managing that revenue is a crucial stream for the profitability of a customer of a SaaS company. How can we translate that into things that matter for our colleagues, for our peers? And we should not expect them to know that, but we should do it for them and facilitate that. And I've worked with teams who have done that transformation over time. It takes time. It's normal. I've been there as well. But when you do that, it gives you so much more insights, but it gives you so much more visibility as well, and a seat at the table, really. And that's where it matters.
I want to address. I promise that we'll take questions as we go. And before we jump into our first practical example, Asha is asking. Some of my customers are reluctant to share OKR, KPIs, goals. Are there any tips for gaining this information from the key stakeholders?
So I suppose what she's meaning is that customers do not want to share what they want to achieve. It's a difficult topic, of course, depending also of the nature of the business you're in. If you're in banking software, it's probably more complicated than if you're in marketing software, let's say. But just ask. And one and two, Yeah, they need to understand that in our role, we are there to help them succeed. Yeah? So they bought your product at a certain period in time with a business case and assumptions, outcomes, goals they want to, KPIs they want to achieve. So we are there to help them achieve that by leveraging product features, by leveraging our experience on how to use the product. So if they want to exceed their own goals, let us work together. Um, I always used to tell my teams that it's important that they understand how their key contact person gets his bonus at the end of the year. So how is he financially rewarded? And if you know that, you know how you can contribute to his goals, and
Mhm,
the chances are close to 100% that if he achieves his goals and goes home with a bag of money,
mhm.
you probably will also achieve your goals. And if that's the case, go home with a bag of money as well.
I want to jump into the practical example. I am gonna share because that's the first thing. So we promised the audience that it will be practical. So let me share with all of you. Can everyone see it? Is it on the screen? Ramses, can you see it?
Yep, I can see it. So I suppose everyone can.
Okay, perfect. So while in the moment I announced the webinar and I promised that this will be a practical thing, I encouraged everyone to send me the messages that they've wrote on different channels in different situations to their manager, to their CEO. Messages that didn't land the right way. They didn't get the right reaction or the reaction that the person was expecting. I received a bunch of messages. I picked only one because we didn't have the time to review all of them. This particular message was a Slack message sent by head of CS to his CEO, where he was basically introducing the idea of commissioning and rewarding the CS team. He decided to send it on Slack. He tried to back it up with all the data that he has at that point, but unfortunately, the CEO basically said no way and shut it off completely the conversation. Now, Ramses, I want to invite you to basically tear down the message. Let us know what we could have done differently in a similar situation, and how could we have obtained the outcome that we wanted it. Basically, implement a commissioning schema.
Yeah. So I think first of all, this Slack message, it has very good intent, right? So whoever sent it in wants to drive revenue, boost motivation, foster customer success and sales alignment. But yeah, it doesn't really hit the mark for what God would call executive communication, hence the negative outcome. And I think you can summarize it probably in a lack of structure, some anecdotal, is that English? Anecdotal reasoning, and overly wordy. I would say it's very long, and it's easy to skim past or dismiss because, yeah, who reads it anyway, right? So at least I am like that as well. Like these long messages or long emails, like, man, this is not what I will read. And
Okay.
so let's maybe break it down
Yeah.
piece by piece, right?
Yeah.
So if you start with the opening line, I was thinking to start giving commissions to my team, and Clearview was the trigger, and so on. I would say that this is very vague and casual. Like I was thinking this customer was the trigger. So as if you send it to your CEO, I would n- not have a lot of, if I were the CEO, then I would not have a lot of confidence in this proposal because I was thinking this thing was the triggers. Like I woke up at 3 a.m. night and I had like an idea, and here it is. So they don't like these custom context first things, but just clarity. Just say, what do you want to do? I was not thinking to start giving commissions. No, it's actually, I propose to implement a commission model for CSMs so we can incentivize them on revenue generating activities, something like that, right? So if you drill it further down, Sam said yesterday, I realized something like Bianca. What if Bianca is rewarded? It's a good anecdote, but make it more general. We've seen CSMs that are constantly identifying upsell opportunities and support renewals, but they have no incentive tied to the revenue impact. It hurts motivation. So it's very general and says what's the problem. And so going further, you go into what is like a list of possible commissionable activities. What if everyone earns something when they run proactive reviews, get to the customers to activate key features? Sorry, it's a bit small to read, but this feels like a brainstorm. Why wouldn't we just say, we could have activities include expansion support, reactivation of churned accounts, so win backs, a better time to value, an onboarding success, anything that leads to a revenue outcome, right? The next chapter is probably impact section, let's call it like that. Impact that I expect. I think this is probably the strongest part of the message because it's outcome focused. What I would improve is the language, as in it's very tentative. I expect, I think about it, so it kind of weakens the message you are doing. It weakens also the call to action. So why not be confident and reframe it confident, like with measurable goals? I expect over the next 2 quarters that we can achieve the following things. So we can stay into this bullet point list. Let's say we increase the expansion revenue with a certain percentage, 5, 7, 10, I don't know. We can expect higher engagement from customer success in upsell cycles, or we can have an improved collaboration with our sales colleagues on joint accounts and pull them into crucial renewals or into joint sales tracks. And so we have a stronger story around full team revenue ownership, for example, which is cross-team collaboration. Everybody likes that. And then I think this is a crucial part as well, where we're not hitting the mark. I think it's closure. So there is no call to action. There is no urgency. Think about it. But I do believe the team is ready for the next step. Think about it. Yeah, the guy probably has a million things to think about, like we all do. So yeah, we'll think about it. Okay, I will think about it. Fine, fair enough. So it's soft, it's open-ended. Okay. So why not invite yourself and turn it around and say, if you're open to it, I would love to present a draft of this new commission structure or this new incentive program and impact that we can have on the forecast at our next week leadership call. So you invite yourself, you will have that seat at the table, and then you can run the show. So you better be well prepared, of course, and have your numbers correct. But chances are high that you can convert this in the seat at the table. Okay. Who will say no to that? I would say. Who will say no to? Here comes the CS leader with a program that will cost us some money on the commission side, but on the long run, it will bring us more money, and you will impact or update the forecast. Great. So it will be number backed. CFO will also like that. Okay. This is more or less how I would run this Slack message.
Okay, let's summarize it. So what I heard from you is maybe Slack was not the right channel. Would it be, or would it make more sense to be an email rather than a Slack, or maybe a one-on-one conversation? What would be the ideal way to deliver this type of message?
Yeah, it depends on the communication preference of each company. I do consider Slack to be quite informal. Okay. For messaging, so it's like for a quick catch up. So I would try to present this in a 15-minute call. And then you can use your Slack as, hey, I have, and give the introduction on Slack and say, I need 15 minutes of your time, and I
Okay.
will run it with you. He will find 15 minutes.
Okay.
Ideally.
Okay. Okay, so it would have been ideal to introduce it via one-on-one call, 15 minutes,
Yep.
15 minutes call. You said that it is too long. So whenever you are delivering executive message, do you have an ideal length when you send? Where do you have some barriers? What's an ideal length?
Subject one line, then one paragraph description,
Mm-hmm.
one paragraph impact, one
Mm-hmm.
paragraph next steps, or even one sentence next step. So yeah, I don't know how many words that are, but not a lot. Not a lot.
Okay, definitely fewer than what we have on the screen. You said that we should be more confident. So other than, or at least this is how I sum it up based on what you said, we shouldn't use words like I think, I believe, or I was thinking. It's more like I know that this is a good thing and this is what I'm proposing and why. So is it important how you start the message? If you don't start it right, you are losing the interest. Or does it the first line, does it count more than the rest of the content?
Yeah, it's a hook, so it's a make or break.
Okay.
I think you can also always make reference, and I use it in workshops a lot. You can make reference to private life, right?
Okay.
When you are meeting with someone you like,
Mm-hmm.
you want this also to be a good conversation. So you will prepare for it, and we try to have a good opener, or an interesting, captivating opener, I'd say.
Okay, so you need a very good icebreaker, I would say, in order to make you need an entrance. You need to make a statement.
Yeah. What's in
Okay.
it for me? Why would I engage in this conversation?
Okay, and I also heard you saying that the closing needs to be something very, I would say, concrete, and not an open for subject, or not something, and it's more like what I can do rather than pass it to the CEO or pass it to the manager and let him do something. So it's more like, this is what I'm gonna do.
Yep. Invite yourself. Make it always with a call to action. That's for sure. No open end, not too soft. Create a sense of urgency, and/or a call to action. Yeah.
Super. Now, that was our first practical example for today. And now I wanna go to the next one. And while we do that, I'm inviting the people who are live to ask questions and pick the brain of Ramses and come up with your concrete scenarios where you were put into difficulties and you didn't know how to frame the message. And he will definitely come up with a suggestion. So we are waiting for your questions on the chat tab or Q&A. And while you guys are thinking of different scenarios where you had a hard time communicating what you wanted to say, I want to go to the next practical example that we've prepared. And I was mentioning at the beginning of the webinar that we have a role play. And basically, we want to show you what it looks when you have to clearly communicate with confidence in that particular moment when you don't have the time to think about, to draft the perfect message. And here's the setup. I will invite a volunteer on stage. Give me one sec to invite. Where is it? Okay, perfect. I'm gonna invite Theo on stage. And she will be...
Hello.
Hello. Hi, Theo. Welcome. And thanks for accepting our invitation. Theo, will play the role of the head of CS, and Ramses will be stepping in as the CEO. Now, a bit of context for this role play. The CS leader walks into a meeting and finds out that her team needs to be cut in half due to budget pressure. And her job is to push back, make her case, and try to change the CEO's mind, Ramses in this case. I'm curious how this is going to play out in terms of logistics. Both of them, they will have more or less 10 minutes to have this tough conversation. And afterwards, Ramses will comment there was performance on stage. And we'll see how it goes. Theo, Ramses, you have the stage. I'm going to mute myself and see how this conversation goes.
We're just looking forward, at least because for once I can play CEO as well. So that's at least a nice experience, even if it's in a role play.
Yeah, remember earlier you were talking about confidence and not freezing?
Exactly. So let's continue on that vibe, right? Theo, as we look at the next quarter and beyond, I think we need to have an honest conversation about efficiency on our operations. We have with the leadership team and with the board, we need to be leaner in our economics, especially, I would say, in post-sale functions. So here's what I think I need from you. So we need your team to, one, absorb more responsibility. So it's either specifically around more expansion or more support or more onboarding. So taking that responsibility as well into the buckets of CSMs. Or on the other hand, we might need to consider a headcount reduction over the next planning cycle. So that's actually a task that we have ahead of us. And I want to be clear, I'm not questioning the value of customer success, right? But and the things you are doing with your team, but the ROI needs to be clearer. So if you could just walk me through what areas we can streamline, what can we automate, can we segment differently, and what if I give you 0 headcount for this year? How would you still meet your KPIs? So let's have this conversation together, right?
Okay. First of all, I want to thank you for being honest with me and telling me straight the issue at hand. I'm a bit surprised, but
okay.
Allow me to give my full perspective. I'm already thankful to you that you considered one solution before cutting the team. I think that would be a way to do it, at least for some time. But I will be straight with you. Cutting the team, that's not a solution. If my pants don't fit, I'm not going to cut a leg in order to fit in those pants. I'm going to find a way where I can improve and make those pants fit me again. It might seem like, okay, I'm cutting my leg now, and for Q1, that's going to look great. But let's see how that will look at the end of the year. So,
are we maybe over-delivering? I mean, do we have too many high-touch accounts? Are we doing maybe too much? We should do less. Is that an idea we could consider?
That is an idea we could consider, especially when it comes to high-touch customers. We can automate some of the things that we have over there and make good use of the tools that we have. Maybe have the low-touch customers on an email flow and remove that pressure from the CS team. But right now, I know for sure that the team is doing their best in order to prove value to the customers.
How can we make that more quantifiable? How can we show that? I need those numbers to be able to be very visible. I'm sure they're doing their best. I think everyone does in this company. But where are we moving the needle? What is our financial impact? Do you have that calculated somewhere?
Well, I can check on the numbers and see exactly what would happen if we are going to reduce headcounts. For now, I can tell you for sure that the CSMs are in charge of the renewals, so I know for sure that their role is really impactful when it comes to our revenue. Also, they've been managing challenging situations where customers wanted to churn because we didn't have some features, or we didn't match the expectations that they had in sales, but the CSM team was the one that saved those customers. And of course,
Right.
yeah,
Do
maybe
we share that enough? Do we share that enough with product? Do we share that enough with sales?
yes.
And what's their opinion on that?
Well, product is aware of the shortcomings, but at the same time, they are doing their best. And with sales, while we know that some of the customers, they are not an ideal fit, we will keep those numbers.
Right. What if you look into the revenue per CSM right now? I just got here a report from a consultancy firm who says about the benchmark for our category in SaaS of the revenue each CSM should have. Where are we? So we can compare that with the benchmark.
Well, if we look at the revenue per CSM, even though for some CSMs it might not look like they're bringing in enough revenue, I can tell you for sure that if just one CSM will be removed from the team right now, we will see that impact over the entire team. If you're going to remove one CSM from the team, the accounts will be reassigned to the rest of the colleagues. You're going to see a lack of trust in the rest of the CSMs. They're going to be going into burnout because they're going over on a number of companies, a number of accounts larger than their capacity. And also, you're breaking the trust with the customers. Each CSM is not just a friendly face in the customer. Each CSM knows the struggles of those accounts and knows how to manage issues with those accounts. So,
Okay. And what if we leave those accounts to like other teams? Like, why do we need these CSMs? I mean, we have product, we have marketing, we have support and professional services. They're all touching the customer. So
yeah, but right now,
wouldn't that be a good solution, at least to stabilize, for example?
that would be a solution, but I will be really honest with you. Right now, if I'm asking someone from marketing or someone from the product team to join a call with the customer, and if the customer has any doubts in regards to the product, because the person from the product team, the person from the sales team doesn't know the customer well enough, they will not see any warning sign in there. While a CSM that has a relationship with that account will see the sign over there. Maybe it's a different setup, maybe a different person will join the meeting, maybe a different issue will be brought up out of a sudden. A CSM will realize that there is a risk there, something that your metrics and something that the product team or the marketing team will not realize because they don't have the whole story.
All right. Okay, but fair enough. But I think we really need to make this exercise stick and this exercise work for our next leadership meeting. So I remember you just said, maybe we can go into tech touch for the bottom percentage of our
Yes.
accounts. So it would be good if you could identify what's the percentage there. Are we talking 5% of our bottom accounts, 30% of our bottom accounts, and what's the churn risk there? If you would go into that way, so that's I think one. And maybe two, I would say, what if you were starting this team from scratch today? Blank sheet of paper, you're the newly joined head of CS and you can build it out. How would it look differently? Because we used to do things like this. Maybe we should not do it like this anymore. So that might be an interesting exercise as well to try to do for our next leadership call. What do you think?
I'm thinking if the wheels on a cars work, I'm not going to replace them with blocks.
Yes, but maybe we can have better wheels.
You can have
To
better
allow us to
wheels,
drive
but
faster. I don't know.
but you're going to go through a period of testing where you don't know if you're going to succeed or if you're going to fail. And right now, the things are going all right. Maybe we're not in the place that we desired to be, but at the same time, we're seeing value from the CSM. We're seeing constant renewals. The churn rates are lower than the expansion rate. So I would still look into your accounts and say maybe 20% out of the accounts to move them on a low touch approach, and to see how we can intervene in there. Look at some of the accounts, and especially when it comes to mid-value clients, to move them on a medium touch approach and only keep the high touch with
All right.
constant meetings.
Okay. Let's do that. Let's come forward with your proposal and try to be creative. So that's one. But secondly, it needs to be number backed. We cannot have the conversation based on we're doing all right, and so we don't need to change anything. So that's definitely not the conversation we can have. So when we have our next call, think about these three things I just mentioned. Blank sheet of paper. If you need to rebuild this team from scratch today, how would it look differently? The tech touch, low touch for the medium accounts, I would say. And then are we maybe over delivering, and how could we leverage product support, marketing to maybe offload a bit of the responsibilities that your team is doing and charge them a little bit more. So think of it as a positive message, because we can also try to offload stuff to other teams, right?
I can do even better than that if you allow me. If you give me a bit of time, we can go through different scenarios and put the companies that we currently have on a medium
Good.
touch to put them on the low.
How much time do you need?
Give me 24 hours and to look into it, and also discuss with my team and see exactly how things would look if we change this process, and also how things would look if only one member of the team would leave.
Okay, no, that's good. How much presentation time would you need? Can we do it in a half an hour?
Yes.
Good. I'll have my assistant reach out and to lock it in on Friday somewhere in the afternoon. Right?
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Appreciate your collaboration. Huh? Have a great day. Huh? Don't hesitate. Huh? Bye.
So thank you both. First of all, I say that both of you were on time. So I said 10 minutes. Basically, you were there. Not sure how you managed to wrap it up in 10 minutes, but you definitely did. Now I am curious, Ramses, what you thought about the whole conversation, and tell us how did Theo do.
I think first of all we should applaud Theo for doing this, because doing this live in front of 100 participants, it's probably not an easy thing to do. So first of all, that's already that. And second, because this is unscripted, right? It's not that we have prepared the whole role play that we're just reading out. This is like on stage, having the conversation with a minimum of preparation, right, and minimum of context. So I think in that, if you take that into account, it's very well done. I think not without going too much into details, because that's not the point.
Yeah.
You know, when you have these conversations, it's what is the other person evaluating, huh? And so in fact, what he wants you to do is create or have this ability to think commercially. You know, how can you tie CS to efficiency? How can you tie it to growth? And I've had this question in the past. What happens if we cut in half your team, or we reduce with 30% your team? And the honest part is that probably in the first 12 months, nothing will happen. So that's the part I would disagree with, because on the short term, nothing will happen. So you need to play the long-term game. What happens then with renewals at risk, competitive renewals, competitors who are also doing their job. And at every company, your customers are being chased by your competitors because they're doing their job, and we do the same. So you cannot blame them for doing their job. So that's the longer term, right? They might be incentivized to accept a call, or to go to a demo, or to go to a sponsored event, or I don't know. So that's one. I think the second is, it's how can you have like a solution mindset, right? Not just defending the status quo, because that's something that you need to let go as a leader. You get this request, something needs to happen anyway. So how can you transform this challenge and this unwillingness to change? Because that's what we hate change, right? Everybody does it. It's the nature of human beings. How can we have this solution mindset and transform it into something positive and try to use it? And I think here in the conversation, I try to give a few hooks, like saying, how can we offload to marketing? For example, we could ditch customer marketing, referrals, positive reviews, customer cases. We could give it to marketing. How can support play a role? how can we have like feedback loop maybe owned by products and offload parts of the responsibilities there if we need to cut down in resources. So, giving a few hooks that can be picked up for the meeting that will be sent out. Because then I wanted to act also as a Porsche CEO who has an assistant who will reach out to book a meeting. That's not the case in every company, of course, right? And then I think the third one is as an evaluation, you're also looking to, can you make a clear plan, about working smarter, enablement. That's one of the things I would also say. Okay, if you want my team to do more, we need more enablement. So you pull in another team that you probably our enablement function, or you create that, but then we need someone who can gives us more proficiency into prompting, so we can prepare our QBRs with AI, or we may need an AI agent to analyze our data, or we need some smart tooling to give us more insight into the data, like a customer platform. I don't know, things like that. So yeah, how can you leverage the things that are on the table and make a puzzle with that and present it to the leader? That's something. Yeah, that's more or less what I was planning to say.
I know this is an extra question from my part, but I'm really interested to know if the CEO, if your executives already come up to you with cutting costs and you're proposing another tool, how should you go to the CEO and to the executive team and propose that tool when they're already set up on cutting costs?
Yeah, because cutting costs is mostly on the payroll. So it's a different line in your budget. Payroll or people, it's another expense post than software. And with software, it's easier to make a business case. We invest because it's stable. You know what you will pay as a license fee. And so you have that offset by either productivity improvement. We save X amount of hours or man days per year. For example, you could reduce, I don't know, customer care with 15%. These people can maybe go, because they're product experts, they could go into product or into engineering. I don't know. So it's easier to invest in software than to invest in people.
So basically, whenever you are hearing that we need to cut costs, that doesn't mean that we are not willing to invest. It's just a matter of how do we basically optimize what we have? What do we move from what line to other lines? Is this
Yes.
okay?
Yes, or you could use it as a negotiation tactic. Okay, if I cannot have more people or I need to let go people, fine. Then okay, sometimes it just needs to happen because it needs to happen. But then it's the moment to put also some cards on the table and say, okay, if that needs to happen, then I need this and I need that tool, and I need some enablement there, and I need some more collaboration from marketing. Let's say I need more of Irina's team to support me in customer marketing and not only going on after new business, for example.
Okay, so it's just a matter of saying, is it always a matter of saying yes, but? Where yes, this is something that we could do under the following circumstances. Only if, for instance, this part goes to product, this part goes to support, this part goes to, and it's a matter of basically you are no longer negotiating with your CEO, basically you are negotiating with your peers on how do we reshuffle things.
That really depends on the situation, of course. Here, I would assume that if you take this case, that it's like a top-down decision that probably benchmarking by the investors. They might see the headcount is too big, or like the total payroll is too big, and which are two different things. So either the budget needs to go down or the headcount needs to go down. So I took this exercise as like needs to happen.
Okay.
But feel free, of course, if you think that there is room to say bluntly no, because these are my arguments, and think again what is important for your peers in the leadership team. So this is what will happen if we do that, and then you've done, as a departmental leader, I think you have done your job. You have flagged the risks, you have flagged the opportunities, and then somebody needs to own that decision. It's usually the captain of the ship. So if it goes south, he took the decision.
Thank you both one more time. And before we start wrapping up things, Ramses, I want to pull out a few takeaways, and I want to leave the audience with some concrete things that they can start implementing from tomorrow on. So if you had to sum it up, what are those, I don't know, 2 3 things CS leaders should actually keep in mind when preparing for high stakes conversation like the one that we have?
First is come prepared with numbers. And so if you're not prepared, because let's say this call here, you are caught by surprise, right?
Mhm.
So park the conversation and say, okay, thank you for that. I need to get to work, analyze data. I'll come back with you. So you can back your arguments, who could be either emotional or could be gut feeling. So how can you back it with data? Metrics, always. And then metrics that are tied to your business impact. We talked earlier about NPS and how we can correlate that with the expansion pipeline or product adoption. It's upsell opportunity, health score was, what is it, future revenue that is at risk. So that's one. And two, it's your storytelling. I think, creating the story more than just the facts. So what's really behind that, and what does it say? So it's insights and not data dumps between brackets. And speaking dollars, I would say, or currency. It's monetizing. What's the impact, the monetizing impact of the CS initiatives that we are doing? We could work on an automated onboarding, so we have less onboarding activities. Time to value would be reduced with X days, but that means that we have the first key KPI sooner, and so we close, I don't know, 1 million faster in expansion, something like that. And then again, I will repeat it, involve your other revenue functions. Be best buddies or create best buddies relationships with your product leader, with your sales leader for sure. And because Rina is on the call, I will say your marketing leader as well.
Thank you. One more question. What's one thing CS leaders should stop doing in those executive conversations? Something that hurts their credibility without them even realizing it. And maybe we also think about the poll distribution at the beginning.
Let me have a look back at the poll then. Yeah, over explaining, that's definitely one. Giving too much real life examples.
Okay.
Stay to the numbers, stay to the bigger picture. I think that's the main thing to keep in mind, and not go into this specific customer from that specific CSM exceptions. You don't run the business with exceptions or special cases. What's the general trend? What's the overarching theme? What's the bigger picture? And not this one specific case of this specific CSM in that region who had that specific account with that specific product bug, or what went south with a specific procedure. Nobody cares.
For me, after listening everything that you shared, it's clear that it's important on how you deliver the message, and okay, you also need to come prepared, but you also need to think of the way you are packaging it. And as a marketer, at least for as a marketer, I think it's a bit easier because you basically need to think that you are delivering the message to an audience. So you need to think who is your audience and what do they care about it, and what are their what's the job they hired you to do, and they expect you to do. And in some cases, the how you do it, it's even more important than what you basically say.
But yeah, think back again to real life. So think when you were young and children, the package or the wrapping of the gift bag is as important as the gift that is inside it. It's the same for messaging, same for communication. The how and the story you tell is equally important as the message that's behind it. Yeah, I firmly believe that. That's why you read books. It tells a story.
Ramses, thank you for being here. with us,
Thanks for having me.
breaking things down, and for jumping into the fire with that role play, even though I think you liked to be a CEO even for 10 minutes.
For the role play, it was fine, yeah.
And
I like to stick to customer success, though.
okay. And a big shout out for Theo for taking the hit and holding her ground. Thank you for bringing that scenario to life. And thank you all for joining, for voting, for listening, and for being open to something a bit different today. And as always, the recording will land in your inbox pretty soon. And if you like this format and you want more sessions like this, just reply and tell me. I actually read all the emails that you guys are sending me. So thank you very much. Take care and see you at the next webinar.